The first pricing data on the Lotus Emira reveals that prices are tumbling and that they are approaching the Evoras. Could the Evora be a better value for money option here? After the launch, there was quite a bit of hype around the Emira, but deposit holders had to be patient. Deliveries were delayed over and over again. It was inevitable that some buyers would try to benefit from this by flipping the first deliveries. The Lotus community monitored the prices closely. Almost every forum has a thread on the yellow Emira on collecting cars. Now, for a brief moment, cars were selling at MSRP or slightly above MSRP, but supply quickly increased, from a handful of cars to 40 cars, and this started the downward price trend. Not even the price increase from Lotus could stop the trend. The first deliveries were made to the UK market, so that one is the most established when it comes to prices. Looking at those prices, we can see that the median price for a V6 was approximately £85,000 in April 2023. This is prior to the actual MSRP increase, but after the announcement that the increase will occur. In the subsequent months, prices started to fall. They fell the quickest between July and October, and fell slightly slower between October and April. This means that prices are now 16.4% or £13.9 thousand lower than 1 year ago. 2020 cars lost slightly more, and 2023 cars slightly less. This results from a difference in mileage that was added during last year. For the German and US market, we don't have so much data yet, but let's have a quick look. Starting with Germany, we can see that prices dropped from approximately 100,000 to 97,000 euros. This of course means that they decreased by 3% during the last 3 months. Annualizing this, we arrive at an estimated loss of 13%. But this is of course a very uncertain estimate. Switching to the US market, we can see something that appears to be a price increase. But it's not a real increase that you see. In January, only a few cars were listed for sale, and this did not give an accurate picture of the price levels. Supply has now creeped up to 35 cars, so it's only during the next months that we'll see how the depreciation curve will unfold. More pricing data is required for the US and German markets. Now, given that we saw a 16.4% decrease in UK prices and have a very rough estimate of 13% for the German market, I think it's fair to conclude that you should expect these rates if you're buying a new Emira. This in turn also means that prices are getting close to the latest Evoras. From a value perspective, this could be a good option for value-conscious buyers, but there are also risks attached. Looking at the market snapshot of April 2024, we can see that there is a significant price overlap between the GT410s and the Emiras. The GT410s stretch up to £70,000, while the Emiras start at £65,000. There is, however, a difference in depreciation between the two models. Looking at the largest Evora markets in the UK, we can see that the Evora GT410 increased by approximately 2.1%. Remember that Emiras lost 16.4%. Now the Evora 400 and the base models are a step down in price point. They lost 8.2% and 3.2% respectively. There's perhaps less cross-shopping between the 400 base model and Emira than between the GT410 and the Emira, but I know that many of you are interested in these price points. Evoras are extremely rare. It happens only occasionally that there are more than 10 cars for sale for a given model, and this makes it difficult to derive a reliable price trend. A handful of cars with a high mileage can offset the complete trend. In that case, the trend would represent a change in market composition and not in actual price level. The numbers and trends that we just looked at are adjusted for these changes in market composition. Yet, the uncertainty in the estimates remains elevated. Let's repeat this comparison between the Evoras and the Emiras now for the US market. For the German market, I unfortunately don't have any data on the Evoras. Focusing first on the comparison between the Emira and the Evora GT, we can see that there's a price difference of approximately $14,000 between the two models. Just as in the UK though, there's an overlap between the top end of the GT market and the bottom end of the Emira market. In terms of value change, the GTs lost 7.2%. This is a good result for a car that is 3 to 4 years old. As discussed, we unfortunately don't have any reliable estimates for the Emiras. Looking at the base, S and 400, we can see that the 400s are down by 5.8%. Base models by 2.3%, and that S's didn't change at all. especially for the base and the S models, the uncertainty is high. You can see that from the volatility and the confidence intervals. So we had now a look at the Emira market in the US, the UK and Germany, and the Evora market in the UK and the US only. Let's put everything together and deduce some insights. The Evoras offer a great value proposition. Over here we have the year-over-year price change for all models and countries. It's a tad messy because not all countries have the same models, but please bear with me. Looking at the Emiras, we can see that they lost considerably more than all Evora models. In the UK, they're down by 16.4%, and our rough estimate for Germany is that they will decrease by approximately 13%. All Evoras in the UK and the US lost considerably less. If we focus on the ones in the US, we can see that they lost on average 4%. The GT lost the most at -7%, and the S model the least at 0%. These are very good results. The average decrease for almost all cars that I track in the US market is 7.6%. All Evoras, even the most recent ones, lost less. The base and the S model even fall in the top 25% of cars that lost the least. In the UK market, the average decrease is a tad lower, at -2%. This result is driven by the positive rates for the Sport 410 and GT 410. Unfortunately, I don't have any other data for the UK, so we cannot benchmark these numbers. So the latest Evoras are cheaper than the Emiras and are also depreciating at significantly lower rates. In other words, they should be on your radar if you're a value-conscious buyer. There are of course some differences between the Emira and the latest Evoras, but to my understanding, it's not night and day. You'll find detailed comparisons on YouTube. However, buying an Evora potentially comes with a big risk. In the UK market, we saw that there's already an overlap between GT410 and Emira prices. But if we add the mileage dimension to the comparison for used cars only, we can see that some Emiras are already priced below GT410s while having a lower mileage. Emiras with a similar mileage to a GT410 tend to be priced the same. This narrative also applies to the US market, where some low mileage GTs are priced close to comparable Emiras. So why does this matter? Well, the depreciation rates that we looked at are descriptive. They contain some information about the near-term future, but cannot predict what will happen to prices in the long term. Assuming that during next year, Emiras will fall slightly less than the 16.4% we saw during last year, they will cross Evora prices. Or will they hold? Generally speaking, prices for the latest model of any car will not fall below the prices of the model it succeeded, up until the older model becomes a classic. Look for example at the different GT3 generations. Following this reasoning, two things can happen. The curve of the Emira could flatten above the Evora's one, or the Emira could push the complete Evora market down. The latter case is of course detrimental if you're purchasing an Evora, partly because of the value for money proposition. Yet, both scenarios rely on the assumption that the model hierarchy in terms of pricing will be maintained. If you take away this assumption, you could end up in a situation where Emira prices fall below Evora prices. All the talk about future prices is of course pure speculation, but it's not unimaginable that Emiras will drop below Evoras. They cater to a similar audience, but not the same audience, and the supply for Evoras is extraordinarily small, meaning that a low demand is sufficient to keep prices up. Let's wrap up. The first data on the Emiras indicates that depreciation rates could be relatively steep, despite the price increases. The latest Evoras are priced at the same level, or slightly below the Emiras, and are depreciating at much lower rates. Therefore, I believe you should consider them if you're a value-conscious buyer. There's however some risk involved in this. It holds especially if the model hierarchy in terms of pricing will fail, meaning that Emiras will drop below Evoras. Yet, if it does hold, we could see significant shifts in pricing. What do you think will happen? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Now if you like this data-driven way of analyzing car markets but would like to see a video for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find data-driven market updates for a large variety of cars. Over here you can find for example the latest update of the Porsche Cayman market, and over here you find a list of the highest and lowest depreciating affordable sports cars. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next week for a new video.